Okay, I'm getting a little low on fresh groceries and I am about to go grocery shopping, but first I'm going to shop from my pantry because we're a little low on cash at the moment, and a good way to save money is to call upon the food that you already have at home and try to build meals around that. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Let's see what's in my fridge, freezer, and pantry. So I'm starting with my improvised pantry here. We live in a small apartment and kitchens in apartments are never big enough for my needs, so I have since learned to just add bookcases full of stuff like right next to and outside the kitchen. So this is our expanded pantry number 1, and as you can see this is mostly like rice and pasta. Or noodles also, and there's also a bag of unopened potato chips here. Usually I keep these in a different pantry, but they're here for some reason. I guess because there was extra room. Anyway, I'm getting kind of low on a lot of the grains and legumes that I usually stock here. I recently restocked this Thai jasmine rice, so this is enough to last us for like many months. Our basmati rice is getting a little low. And this is a broken cat mug that I got in Japan. It's so sad. It has a crack down the middle, so I just keep it here for some reason. Why not? I think I was moving it off the table because I was shooting something else and then I just haven't moved it back. These are other rices. I usually have more rices than this, but I haven't bothered restocking because, you know, I need to save money, so I'll restock once I have more money. I got black rice, like a cup left of Calrose rice, about a cup of arborio rice. This is like the cheap long grain Safeway brand rice that I bought for the burrito, the cheap burrito video that I made. I usually don't get rice that's this cheap and poor of quality. I pretty much only use this for the cheap burritos because it masks pretty well that it's not very good rice. And this is some quinoa. I usually make salad out of this and I usually eat this in the summertime. So I'll probably eat this in the summer. I'm probably not going to bother making meals out of this for the next couple months. And the only legume I have stocked at the moment is chickpeas. So I might make falafel out of this later in the month. But yeah, with these two rices being like the main rices I have at the moment, I think I'm definitely going to be making some Indian curry, and I'm probably going to turn this into some fried rice. That's a very cheap staple that I can make when I need to save money. I usually keep brown rice stocked. I usually keep like a couple other rices, but I'm out of those at the moment and I'm not going to bother restocking. So now my pastas. I'm probably like gonna eat all of these pastas over the next couple weeks with my husband. We have spaghetti, macaroni. I can make mac and cheese out of that. I probably will because I have a little cheese left over as well. And some egg noodles. This was a giant bag. Now there's not very much of it left. And then I have a little couscous. This also is a summer thing. I usually eat it in the summer, so probably eat that in the summer. And like enough popcorn kernels for like 1 big bowl of popcorn or 2 little bowls of popcorn. Maybe we'll eat that, maybe we won't. These are spicy ramen. I have 2 of these. I like to keep them on hand just for rainy days, like literal rainy days. They're nice to eat on rainy days. But also if I just don't feel like cooking, and they're nice sometimes. And then these ramens, I never eat them as soup. I just use the noodles because they're really cheap noodles. So that was Pantry Annex number 1. Here is Pantry Annex number 2. Another bookcase that we got for free from a friend. This is just a bunch of Italian soda syrups. We invested in these a few years ago and we're just very slowly using them. Mostly to make Italian sodas. Sometimes I put like the French vanilla syrup or the hazelnut syrup into hot drinks. The only alcohol we keep here, usually we like to keep a Kahlua stocked as well, but we recently ran out of that. I only really use alcohol in like baking desserts or cooking desserts, but we have a big thing of rum, mostly unused. I use that to make our pineapple peach rum ice cream in the summer. And then we have like a tablespoon or 2 of triple sec left. I use that in our cranberry sauce. And this is just a shelf entirely devoted to tea. This is pretty much just all tea. I drink a lot of tea, that's no secret. Most of it's the caffeinated variety, but I've got some decaf in here, and then this is a Japanese barley tea. I really like drinking it iced when the weather's warm. Oh yeah, and then I have empty SodaStream canisters. I love drinking fizzy water, but I ran out of fizz, and it costs money to refill these, so for now I'm making do with non-fizzy water. And then this shelf we have stuff for baking mostly. I have a few different kinds of flour and also some sugars. But I'm getting kind of low. This is the sort of thing I usually like to restock when I get low. But I've got about like a couple cups of all-purpose flour in here, like a cup of white sugar in here. This container that says oats actually has brown sugar. Brown sugar! because it makes sense to put it in an oats container. This is whole wheat flour. This is semolina flour. I usually make porridge out of that. And this is instant mashed potatoes, which my husband got before we even moved in together. So this is probably like 6 years old. And I use this in bread. I don't make mashed potatoes out of that because instant mashed potatoes are disgusting. And then here we have some quick oats, which I actually had a bowl of this for breakfast this morning because I did not have much of anything else. But I usually don't eat this as a hot cereal. I use it in baking to make like cookies or bread. Masa harina to make corn tortillas, cornmeal to make cornbread, and bread flour to make bread. And this is like instant apple cider my husband likes, along with some like empty canisters that I don't want to throw away. They might come in handy someday, who knows? It's always the rationale. And this is the canned goods shelf. As you can see, it's like mostly cat food at this point. We're pretty stocked on cat food. I'm not going to have to restock that anytime soon. But yeah, our other canned goods, just 2 things. Usually I keep a lot more than this, but again, I'm not restocking things because I have to save money at the moment. I have like a jar of artichoke hearts and a can of sweetened condensed milk. The sweetened condensed milk, I got that several months ago to make flan, and I never followed through and made the flan because we got our booster shots and I felt way too sick to make flan. And then by the time that was over, I just kind of forgot. But maybe I'll make flan. And these artichoke hearts, I got these actually just for my sandwich video, just to show, hey, this is an ingredient you could get, but I had no personal plans of using them myself. Now I kind of regret buying this just for a video. This happens a lot, actually, more often than you'd think for this channel. I buy things that aren't necessarily characteristic of things that I would buy regularly. But I buy them just to kind of show as examples, hey, you could buy this, you could get this, for the video's sake, or for the thumbnail, and then, like, I have to find ways of using it. But we like artichoke hearts. I just didn't have any plans for them, but maybe I'll put them on top of a pizza, because pizzas are actually pretty cheap when you make them yourself. And this is just some homemade orange candy that I made that we haven't finished eating yet. So first, before I show you the rest of my pantries, this is my very, very large spice collection. I love spicy food, and I have so many different spices, and I buy them bulk at grocery stores where they're a lot cheaper. So this again was another investment. I acknowledge that all of these spices, I also have some in spice racks. I acknowledge that all these spices cost a lot of money, but it takes years and years to use them up. So I think it's a good investment overall. Like, you do save money in the long term. And I'm probably going to be taking advantage of the fact that I have all these spices in this next month or two to try to save money. More spices! Because there's never enough room, including our fresh nutmeg and our mortar and pestle to grind fresh spices. But yeah, lots of spices. This top shelf, it's at the top because I don't access it often, because I don't use it that often. It's like miscellaneous Asian cuisine pantry goods. I usually keep panko up here too, but I haven't restocked it. Giant bag of cut wakame. Look at that, it says wakame. I put this pretty much only in miso soup. I know you can do more things with it than that, but I don't really like wakame unless it's in miso soup. So this bag is going to last me several years. And I have some nori, which again, I only really use this when I make sushi. I know you can use it in other things, but I don't really like it as much in other things, so I go through it very slowly too. Rice noodles. I might make some pho or Vietnamese noodle salad, you know, in the future. Probably not soon because it uses a lot of other fresh ingredients that are kind of expensive. And sesame seeds. And this is my pantry of like a lot of oils and some sauces and vinegars. So I've got like a giant thing of vegetable oil. I have sesame oil, a couple hot sauces. This one, I think it was a gift, so I hate to say this, but it tastes kind of bad. Like, I'm even considering throwing it away because neither of us like how it tastes. It's habanero based. We don't really like habaneros. This, however, Tapatio is a great hot sauce. It's not very hot, but it tastes really good. Coconut oil, a stone for sharpening my knives, Worcestershire sauce. It took me a long time to, wow, be in focus, please. That would be kind of cool if this were in focus. Hey, there you are. It took me a long time to discover Worcestershire sauce. Like, I knew it existed, but I hadn't, like, used it ever, really. And it's great. If you're not acquainted with it yet, you should use it and stuff. Makes everything taste like more like meat. It's kind of like just Western soy sauce. This aged sherry vinegar was pretty expensive. I got it just for a Bob's Burger video that I've been working on, because one of the burgers requires it. It's good, but it's like, yeah, I got that for a video. Chili oil, rice vinegar. Hiding behind this wood is, oh, there it is, olive oil. Red wine vinegar, out of focus. A big old jar of ghee, because we do a lot of Indian cooking. Some apple cider vinegar. Tabasco, another hot sauce that doesn't taste the greatest. Rose water. I go through this extremely slowly, but it lasts forever, so that's a good thing. A mostly empty bottle of balsamic vinegar. The Last Dab hot sauce from Hot Ones. I got this for my husband for Christmas a few Christmases ago. And mirin, good for Japanese cooking. So that's like a lot of cooking oils and vinegars and also some condiments. And then this is my baking pantry mostly. Pretty much everything up here I use to make like cakes and cookies and pies and cheesecakes and sweet things mostly. Okay, so this is the contents of my baking pantry out on the countertop, and I will talk about these as I put them away. Well, starting over here, so this is sort of like my chocolate area, I guess. This is cacao nibs, and I got these a few years ago at a place in Portland, Oregon. I like cacao nibs a lot, I just haven't really quite figured out how to use them a lot in stuff, but I mostly have been putting them in tea blends. They're really great in tea. Guitard chocolate chips. I bought these on sale when they're on sale at Christmas time. I always like to have chocolate chips handy. They're just very versatile. You can melt them and turn them into cocoa. You can melt them and turn them into frosting. You can put them in chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, and you just eat them. They're great. Extra dark, please. And this is just some baking chocolate. Ghirardelli. I usually use this to make brownies. There's also a chocolate cake I make that uses this. And then I actually forgot that I had these, so it's a good thing I'm doing this. Butterscotch chips. Also probably bought these at Christmas when they were on sale. Now, this is not the smartest purchase that I made here, but, well, this was a good purchase. I bought one thing of cocoa powder. So I'm very particular about my chocolate, in case you haven't noticed already. Just here's a PSA. Hershey's cocoa and Hershey's chocolate does not taste very good. It has this weird bile sort of aftertaste. I got this a few years ago. I still haven't brought myself to use it. It's not bad, and especially Special Dark is not that bad. But if you care, it's worth splurging on better brand chocolate, but I can't find good brand cocoa powder at the grocery stores I shop, so I bought this online, and it's great, this cocoa powder. It's a dark cocoa powder by Ghirardelli. Oh my goodness. Hashtag not a sponsor, but it's so tasty, so delicious, and I love it. Recently, I was buying more of this. It's a powder, like supplement that you feed to cats if their anal glands get clogged. One of our cats has that problem, so we get this for her and we put it in her wet food. That's the whole reason we give them wet food, incidentally, is so we can put this in one of our cats' wet food. So we give them all four of them one can divided by the four of them once a day. And they like it, it's a special treat. But yeah, I was buying this online because I could only really buy it online. And to get free shipping, I needed to buy something else. And the only thing I could think of, well, which is stupid in hindsight, there were plenty of other things I could have bought. But because I had recently bought this, it was in my history, I was like, oh, well, I'll buy another one of these. Like, eventually I'll need it and it doesn't go bad. But yeah, it'll take me a long time to go through both of these giant cans of cocoa powder, especially since I mostly use cocoa powder in colder months and it's going to get warm soon. Anyway, no shortage of cocoa powder there. Instant espresso, I usually use this in baking. Big old bag of powdered sugar. I used to make cakes a lot more often and I would use powdered sugar in the frosting, but I haven't been doing that very much the last few years. I'm just not really into cakes anymore, especially not the kind with buttercream frosting. So it's been very slow going getting through this powdered sugar, but I think I'm going to make a gingerbread with the molasses and add powdered sugar on top because that's how I like it. Speaking of molasses, honey, delicious. This you might think it's powdered sugar, but it's actually tapioca starch. I use it to make a Brazilian bread that I haven't made in a while, but I still have it. Shredded coconut. All right, we have honey grams and chocolate grams. I use these pretty much only to make crusts for cheesecakes and pies. This one specifically, the chocolate for banoffee pie crust. Sometimes we eat graham crackers, but usually they're an ingredient and they last a long time, so they're just kind of there. But yeah, like if we wanted to eat a sweet thing really quickly and I didn't feel like making anything, we could always have graham crackers. Cornstarch, great additive for all kinds of recipes. Speaking of thickening agents, gelatin. This is a big box, but it's almost mostly empty now. Haha. Yeah, it's taken me like 10 years to use this, but gelatin doesn't go bad. Speaking of other things that don't go bad, this is powdered milk. I use this mostly in baking as well. I never like reconstitute it and drink it because that's gross. So this, I need to make a plan to just use this. So I'm thinking of making spaghetti with sauce and putting this nutritional yeast on top of it in place of parm. I got this, again, for a video. It's not something that I would ordinarily eat, but I did a raw vegan food day where I ate like Fabiola, a vegan influencer, and one of her recipes used nutritional yeast, so I had to buy this for the video, but since then I haven't used it because it's just not something that I use or that I think to use, but I have to make a point to use this. So yeah, I think I'm going to make spaghetti with sauce and put it on top instead of parm, since it's something I already have instead of buying new Parmesan. These are all sort of like our nut butters. I've got crunchy peanut butter because my husband prefers crunchy, because he's wrong, and creamy for me because creamy peanut butter is superior. And then this, I think I talked about this in some other video at some point, but it's a giant jar of tahini that I bought myself. I was a little ambitious and overly optimistic, thinking that I was going to be like cooking a lot of Middle Eastern cuisine with tahini, and I just didn't. So I found myself like a few months ago with the tahini line up to here, and it expires in 2 months. So I was like, oh no, I have to find other uses for this tahini before it goes bad. Or, I mean, it's not going to go bad, just it'll probably start tasting a little off. So I've been putting it in smoothies. I have a recipe up for a banana tahini smoothie that I really like, and that's pretty much how I got it down to here. I'll probably make more banana tahini smoothies with this. It's really healthy, like it's really good for you, good fat, good protein. It's a big old box of kosher salt. And here we have mostly nuts. This is cream of tartar. It's sold with spices for some reason, even though it is not a spice. It's acid, and you mix it with baking soda to make your cakes rise. Usually it's used, and usually I use it as an egg white stabilizer when I whip egg whites. And speaking of that, baking powder, vanilla extract. I got this at Costco back when we still had a membership. This was like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's still, you can't really see where the line is, but it's about like a third full still. It was a good investment. And 1 vanilla bean. I got its twin at Winco. That's the cheapest place to buy vanilla beans in my experience. Okay, and then now we've reached the dried fruit and nuts portion of my baking pantry. This is a bunch of cashews that I roasted myself. I bought them raw for a video, and I don't like raw cashews really, but we both love roasted, so I roasted them myself. This is like a tablespoon of pistachios. There's not really enough to turn into a recipe. I'll probably like chop them up and put them in stir fry or something, or as a garnish. This is tiny bit of almond meal that has, it has the skins in it, which is why it's brown instead of white. But yeah, this is another ingredient that I don't really think to use unless I make a point to use it. So I'm gonna make, I think with this, I'm gonna make some gluten-free banana pancakes. They're delicious, and I haven't made them in years, so I think I'll make that to use up the rest of this, because it's getting pretty old. Some peanuts, empty almond container, which I will not restock, empty pecan container, which I will also not restock. Again, once I have money, I'll restock those. Unsweetened coconut, I use this in curries. Pepitas, there's a lot of uses for these. I have quite a few. I should probably use them in something. And big old bag of hazelnuts. Every summer we restock our hazelnut supply from a local farmer, and we barely used the last one. I think because I had so many other different kinds of nuts to use, so before I restock my other nuts, I'm going to just use these, because these are delicious, and hazelnut's one of our favorite nuts. It's one of those things where if you have a special ingredient, you save it for later because it's special, and then you wind up not using it at all. That's kind of what happens. But we have a lot of these, so I'll be using hazelnuts more. And then for dried fruit, I usually keep more than this, especially in the colder months, but since it's going into the warmer months where we'll have fresh fruit, I'm not going to bother restocking. But I got some craisins, some golden raisins, some cherries, and a little tiny bit of ginger. So now let's look at what's in my fridge. So this is the contents of my fridge, plus 4 dozen eggs. I bought these, they were in a flat of 60 because they were really super cheap that way, and then I just put them in these old egg containers that I already had. So I'm going to be basing a lot of my cuisine around these eggs, most likely. My husband gets a little upset if he hasn't had meat in a while, so I'm probably also going to get a cheap meat like chicken. But yeah, eggs are going to be the main protein source for the next couple weeks, because we already have them and they're cheap. Besides the eggs, pretty much most of the stuff we have in our fridge at this point is just condiments. And that's kind of what happens when you reach the end of the grocery cycle. Anyway, we got soy sauce. This is poaching pear liquid reduction from the last time I made poached pears. I really like this on top of yogurt with fresh berries in the late spring, so I'll be eating this pretty soon. Hoisin sauce. Yeast, essential for making bread. Well, not essential. You can make some breads without yeast, but a lot of the breads I make use yeast. About 2 1/4 sticks of butter. This is semi-sweet bar chocolate. I use this usually to grate over desserts like tiramisu. This is like one of the few veggies we still have at the moment. Some sweet peppers. I could just eat these raw if I wanted, or I could toss them in a stir fry. Some ginger root, because you can like only buy it in giant things. It takes a while to use up one of these sometimes, but like I do a lot of cooking with ginger root, so I'll probably put this in curry and fried rice. So this Smucker's apricot preserves is an artifact from before we moved in together. My husband had it. It's actually quite tasty. We finally opened it and are eating it. But the reason why a store-bought jam is an artifact is because I make all of my own jams. These are still left over from last summer, but we're almost finished. This is strawberry cardamom, maple peach. This, on the other hand, big ole, that's like 3 cups of blackberry jelly, homemade. I had all of these in the freezer for the last several months, and we've been slowly eating them. One of the other few veggies, celery, usually takes a while to go through one of these. I'm feeling it in my hands, and I'm feeling it starting to go a little soft, so I'm definitely going to use this. I have a plan. Black sesame seeds. Usually I use these in desserts, but I did that thing again where I was saving it for a special occasion, and because I was saving it for so long, I wound up not using it, and now they're really old, so I've been sprinkling them on stir-fried noodles instead, just to get rid of them at this point, because I don't think they're that great anymore for sweet applications because they're so old. A lot of mozzarella cheese sticks. I like keeping these as an easy snack. They last a very long time since they're individually wrapped. I'm probably going to turn these into a pizza with those artichoke hearts. Tamarind paste. Some leftover cheeses that didn't make it into last cycle's cooking. So yeah, I'm going to turn this slice of provolone and this little hunk of cheddar into mac and cheese with the macaroni that I have. These are my mugs of rendered animal fat. This is bacon grease, this is chicken fat, and this is duck fat. I use these in my cooking instead of oil to save money and because it tastes delicious. My SodaStream water, sadly unfizzed. Vegetarian oyster sauce, because my husband's allergic to shellfish. A little bit of cream. There's like maybe a half a cup left. I put this in my tea and also in other baking and desserts, so I definitely need to restock that. Coke for my husband's Coke habit. I do still have some Coke for my husband's Coke habit in reserve. I was going to restock a little bit at Winco, but Coke is kind of expensive at Winco, so I'm going to get it at a different store later. Sake, I got this when we made ramen recently, and I don't really use sake that much in other cooking, but there's a Bob's Burger recipe that uses sake, so I'll need it for that later. Once I get back to working on Bob's Burgers. Baking soda, of course, keep everything fresh. Giant jar of pickles. That's the only way we buy pickles anymore, is in giant jars like this. Pepperoncinis, banana peppers, gherkins. My husband loves gherkins. Homemade pickled jalapenos. I think I remember I had extra jalapeno that I had no, like fresh jalapeno that I had no use for, so I pickled them in this jar that originally had German mustard. It's pickled jalapenos. Some chipotles, some pickled relish. That was sweet relish. This is dill relish. This is another thing that's kind of taking us forever to go through. It's homemade Carolina Reaper hot sauce. I think I made this like a year ago. It's extremely hot. Like, I cannot eat it. And even my husband, who like does very well with spicy food, has a hard time getting through it. A little bit goes a very long way. But I mean, because it's hot sauce, it lasts forever, basically, so no rush. A little bit of sriracha mayo. This is actually the only mayo we have at the moment, but I'm not going to restock yet. Yellow mustard, we're quite low on that because of our sandwich month. This is another relic. When we moved in together 4 years ago, we each had like 2 bottles of ketchup. This is the very last of all of our ketchup. We're finally almost out of it. We will finish it this summer, probably. It's exciting. Sriracha, honey garlic soy sauce, another relic from my husband's bachelor days. Spicy Indian ketchup we got from friends. This is actually really delicious. Fish sauce. I don't drink wine or alcohol, but I use red and white wine in cooking all the time. I usually just get whatever's on sale. This is like, I was looking at this the other day. It's like a teaspoon of better butter. It's basically butter mixed with vegetable oil. It makes it spreadable. I need to put that in something just to get rid of it, because it's like a teaspoon. And I didn't show this earlier, but I keep it on my countertop, just fresh garlic, and as you can see, I'm dangerously low on that, so I definitely need to restock my fresh garlic. And then a mostly full tub of dashiri miso. This is white miso. And yeah, I only really feel like eating Japanese food in the summertime for some reason. So I got this, I think, like I think I got it in the fall or something. It was probably on sale, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out of miso, I should get miso, but I have barely used any of it, because again, I only really have miso soup and Japanese food in the summer. So I'll use this more in the summer. It lasts forever, so it's no biggie. So this is the current contents of our freezer. I've been making an effort the last couple months to clean out the freezer because it was getting really full. So this is actually a little less than what we usually store. Starting over here with our meat section, all of these yogurt and cottage cheese containers are homemade chicken and duck broth. I've got like 1.5 gallons. I have almost 2 gallons of chicken and duck broth, homemade, frozen. I do have some ideas for this. My husband has been wanting me to make Italian wedding soup. That'll use a lot of broth. I've been thinking of making pilaf. That uses a lot of broth. At any given moment, I usually have some frozen broth in the freezer, as well as like frozen meat and vegetable scraps to turn into broth. I don't have any scraps at the moment, just broth. Okay, there's a funny story behind these 2 1-pound packs of frozen fatback. My husband and I made ramen a couple months ago for Valentine's Day, and we did it all from scratch, and it required fatback, and we needed 1 pound of fatback, and I asked the butcher for 1 pound, and she gave me 3 pounds, and I didn't know it until I got home. So I froze the rest of it, and I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I might make ramen again later, like in the winter, with one of these, and the other one I might grind up and put in, well, in the Italian wedding soup, it has meatballs, so maybe I'll grind up some of the other one and add it to the meatballs to make them taste better. But yeah, fatback, it's just pork fat off of a back, pretty much. And it's great, like, to grind it up and put it into meatballs and stuff like that. It adds this really nice richness. That's pretty unique. Failing anything else, I could always just render it and cook with it. And this is my produce section. I've got some frozen mangoes. I often make smoothies or mango lassis out of that. Add some frozen blueberries. I'm gonna put those in those gluten-free banana pancakes I was talking about earlier. Frozen corn and frozen peas. I always have those in the freezer. And then this is just, it's not yogurt. It's pineapple that I bought fresh, and I had too much of it, so I froze the rest of it for later. I think I'm going to turn this into Thai pineapple fried rice in the future. And then whenever a banana is about to go bad, I freeze it, and then I turn it into smoothies. So I've got 3 frozen bananas. This is fenugreek leaves. I used to keep it out with my other spices, but it started going moldy, so now I keep it in the freezer. And then frozen breads. I always freeze my extra breads. They're fine if you toast them later. Like, someone made a really mean comment recently on my sandwich video, like, they taste disgusting if they've been frozen. Like, I kind of agree. For some breads, yes. But if you toast them, like, they're slightly drier, but if you use them in a gloppy burger anyway, that's actually good. So I freeze my extra buns so they don't go bad and I don't have to throw them away. And this is a little bit of extra frozen bread. I'm going to turn this into breadcrumbs for the meatballs for the Italian wedding soup. And then my husband likes keeping little snacking chocolate in the freezer. He currently has a few Andes. Okay, so I've got a few ideas of dishes that I'm going to make, and with just a few more purchases at the grocery store, I should be able to make those things. A lot of eggs, a lot of rice, and a lot of pasta and other grains. It's still going to be tasty. That's the whole idea here. Try to make our food cheap, but also tasty. Let's go grocery shopping. Alright, so this is all the groceries that I bought for me and my husband for the next 2 weeks, I anticipate. Might be able to stretch it a little longer than that with the things from our pantry. And as you can see, the total was a little over $46. So that means it's just about $11 per week per person, which is extremely low priced, especially in today's economy with food prices. Oh my god, everything was noticeably so much more expensive. But anyway, let's just go through what I got. I'm restocking my flour and sugar because I'm almost out of both of these things, and I probably would have run out of them at some point during this month anyway, and I would need to restock. So I went ahead and restocked my flour and sugar. And this is going to last me a few months. So you should always buy the best meat that you can afford if you're an omnivore. And at the moment, unfortunately, that's factory farm raised meat. And I do feel bad about that, but I'm poor and I can't afford any better at the moment. So chicken thighs is the cheapest meat and the best meat. I'm so happy that US Americans mistakenly think that chicken breast is better than thigh, because thigh is so much tastier and cheaper usually. I'm going to turn these into a curry to stretch them out a little further. And for that curry, I also got some serrano peppers. Big old bag of carrots, great value, great flavor, and great nutrition, and pretty versatile. I'm going to be putting those in a lot of different things. Bananas, because it's one of the cheapest fruits, and my husband likes them, and I can put them in my banana pancakes and my banana tahini smoothies. A little bit of butter, because I would have run out if I hadn't bought more. Cream, because I was almost out. Milk, because I was completely out. Garlic, because I was almost out. I use these canned milks These are just plain evaporated milk. I use them in my morning cup of tea because it's a little healthier than cream and sugar, and my first morning cup of tea is mostly just to wake up, and if I have it plain without any dairy, I get an upset stomach, so canned milk for that. 2 big cans of diced tomatoes, because they're very cheap, very flavorful. They're going to be the base of my spaghetti with sauce and my curry. Onions, always make savory dishes better, and salt, because I probably have enough salt to get through the rest of April, but salt is a terrible thing to run out of, and this only costs like 53 cents, and it's going to last us a few months, so salt.